Hello, and thank you for choosing Ventura Tattoo for your piercing. Now, as a couple things, I'd like to go over some general aftercare with you, just so that you can be aware of what will always apply to your piercing. Now, as for more specific aspects of your piercing, feel free to ask your artist. They'll make you aware of how your piercing may differ from the general. But in general, you'll notice that we do utilize the APP Aftercare. Now, that is the Association of Professional Piercers. It's an organization that exists to make sure that their advice is as up to speed as is possible. They work very closely with medical professionals. And in that vein, there's one thing that they suggest that we don't necessarily agree with, and that would be the mention of soap. That has been proven to be just a little bit irritative to healing tissue. All that we would suggest would be a sterile saline solution, much like we sell here or you can find at any drugstore. It's available quite a few places. All it is salt and water at a ratio that perfectly mimics your natural salinity. So from there, you can't really overuse it. I'd say about 2 times a day or more as necessary would be the ideal. The as necessary being in the event of dirt or sweat getting on the site, it's a good idea to give it a quick flush. You can also get away with making your own, and of course your artist will mention that on the leaflet, by mixing 4 teaspoons of non-iodized sea salt into 1 gallon of distilled water. That'll afford you the exact same ratio. The only difference being that with the DIY variety, it's not going to be perfectly sealed, so I would suggest capping it after use, storing it in the refrigerator, not dunking anything into it, and just making sure you approach it with clean hands. Simple as that. Now, with that sort or the other kind, you can apply utilizing a clean bit of gauze or paper towel, but I would refrain from using any cotton products on the site, as they'll tend to fragment, fibers could get stuck, and potentially really irritate the area. Now, during the healing, you will experience a bit of lymph discharge. That's just some general crustiness. It's white or yellow in color. Not problematic whatsoever, perfectly normal, not pus. But it will get a little itchy, as it does tend to contain histamine. So be aware of that. Do your best not to scratch at it. You can allow for the shower or any amount of the wound wash to help address that. Just want to be very hands-off with it. You also want to make sure to wash your hands prior to touching the piercing site for any reason, and know that you don't need to rotate your jewelry. There's a common misconception there. Another few sources of misconception involve things like dial soap, hydrogen peroxide, alcohol, unnecessarily aggressive. We'd rather you keep the site hygienic, and from there you have no need to worry about killing any outside bacteria. So, as long as you're keeping it clean preemptively, you have no need to worry about that. Additionally, things like Neosporin, Bactine, or that stuff you might find from Claire's that contains benzalkonium chloride, shy away from that. It's not intended for long-term wound care. The ideal policy, when in doubt, would be litha. Just leave it the heck alone. Your body will heal itself. Just be very hands-off and allow for your body to do what it does best. Also, depending on your piercing, there may be various durations that you should keep it out of unhygienic bodies of water. The artist will more thoroughly inform you on that. But in general, for whatever duration they stipulate, you want to keep the piercing out of any pools, lakes, rivers, jacuzzis. They're all breeding grounds for bacteria. And rule of thumb, about whatever time they stipulate, about half of that you would do well to keep it out of the ocean. So, for example, for a nostril, about 4 months. Keeping it out of any pool or whatnot, about 2 months before you can go in the ocean. And when you're done in the ocean, I would say give it a good rinse afterwards, because the seawater is so much saltier than your natural salinity, it will tend to dry things out. Best to hop in the shower, give it a good rinse afterwards, just to make sure it doesn't become irritated. Also, be mindful in the shower that you're not getting common products flushed through the site. Kind of get creative with the positioning of your body, and as well as possible, try to make sure there's no exposure to that. Ideally, of course, make sure that whatever bedding you're sleeping on is as clean as possible. Now, if it's a piercing about the face, I would say dress your pillow with a t-shirt such that you can sleep on one clean side one night, flip it over for the next, invert it for the next 2, just so you have a few clean surfaces in a row to sleep on. Much easier than washing your sheets. But if it's generally about the torso, midriff, what have you, Just make sure that whatever clothing you're going to bed with is hygienic, of course. Now, if you want to keep the piercing site open, of course, do keep jewelry in, as even a well-healed piercing can tend to shrink or close without jewelry in there. And furthermore, your piercer will go through the exact duration of aftercare that you should expect. But bear in mind, this is an average. We can't accurately predict how long you may take to heal. There are many factors that play into it, but there will always be somebody on staff 7 days a week that you can come and discuss any perceived issue with. Anyway, thank you for choosing Ventura Tattoo. Have a great day and enjoy your piercing experience.